Thank you guys, Highbeam, for being here. If you guys want to do a quick introduction on who you are and your background, then we can get into some marketing questions, and then I'll leave some time for all of y'all to ask any questions as well in general.
Hi, everybody. My name's Chandler Lyles. This was really official, this microphone. I'm one of the co-founders of Highbeam Marketing. We started about 2 years ago, and we're a fancy performance marketing agency. And that really just comes from, my background was I used to own a barbecue restaurant, and so it was very direct to consumer. And much like probably a lot of you guys, I had to wear all the different hats in the business, so I know more about bookkeeping than I probably should, and customer service and operations and all the things. And marketing was really the part of that business that I fell in love with. And so we ended up closing that business down, and I went all in on my marketing career. But the frustrating thing I had with marketing back in the day was that I would just give these people my money, these different specialists and gurus and agencies, and we all see the Facebook ads with like, if you just click this funnel, you'll get 20x investment. And I didn't know any better, so sometimes I'd waste some money on it. And it was just like wandering through the wilderness blindly. And so that's really at the heart of Highbeam and what we do here now. And that's why we come do stuff like this now, is like we're just trying to give back and help. And obviously that helps us get more clients down the road, but we're trying to be in this for the long run. So.
Yeah, my name's Austin Lynch. Kind of on the flip side, I started my career in digital advertising about 10 years ago. And so my passion has always been product companies and working with them. Something about getting a client's product or whoever I'm working with into the hands of people and getting them to make that purchase decision. And then even further after that, working with the companies to build retention and kind of lifelong customers. That's always been something I'm interested in. And so I met Chandler probably 4 or 5 years ago, and we kind of both had this idea that we're both really in kind of trying to take our careers in digital marketing forward and advertising and all of that stuff. And so my background was in agencies. There's a lot of stigma around agencies that are pretty negative, and so I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point, but
We never fight about that, do we?
no, we never do. I worked at the Bunton Group here, and in Chattanooga, I worked at the Johnson Group, and what we see all the time is there's just this weird stigma around agencies that they are sort of just trying to move money into their pocket and not really caring about the end result. And that's not what we want to do. I mean, our kind of goal is to be the last agency our clients ever need. And so, it's a little bit about us.
And then, sorry, really quick, our third partner, Ben Tonak in the back, is being gracious enough to be our videographer tonight. And he's smarter than both Austin and I combined. And if you want to talk to him, you have to actually work with us. That's the lead.
Awesome. So can I get a raise of hands on how many businesses in here, how many of you guys are running digital ads? Is anyone thinking about running digital ads?
Wait, who's here for the empanadas only? Like that would be, all right, the real reason I understand, I get it. I know who I'm competing with here. I'm not.
I know a lot of companies started investing heavily into digital ads during COVID and those times. Can you guys talk a little bit about like that wave and fluctuation and how it was performing then versus what are best practices now with digital ads?
Yeah, I can take that one. So, I mean, I'm sure as most, if not all of y'all know, businesses that had brick and mortar stores in 2020 were almost forced into the digital world because naturally you still have to get your products and services in front of people. And that did lead to a ton of businesses kind of just pouring into Facebook ads, Google ads, Amazon, Microsoft, all these places. And we saw a lot of kind of interesting factors. One, people were taking action, a lot more because they were spending more time on their computers and phones during that period. But also costs of advertising went up a little bit. And so what's kind of interesting when you kind of compare those two factors is, and I probably will get too nerdy several times, and I'll apologize for that now, but as the world got back to normal and usage of devices and taking action on devices kind of dipped, the rates really didn't change all that much. They didn't really come down. In fact, they're still climbing a little bit. But what I would say about the effectiveness is during that time, some very, very pivotal things happened in the industry that actually didn't really relate to COVID. You had Apple and Facebook going to war with each other, and that led to tracking problems, and that led to privacy concerns, and that led to Facebook removing all the audiences that people you used to be able to target people, for better or worse, based on their credit score. You could target people based on how much credit card debt they had. I mean, it was crazy and probably borderline, sketchy. But the difference is today, there are new ways to target people, and you just kind of have to be willing to explore that route and find what works. Because, we started our business, ironically, kind of right after COVID was sort of starting to decline. We started our business in September of 21. And we hear a lot of people saying, man, our ads were just crushing in 2020 and 2019, and they've declined now. And a lot of that is because people haven't really had the confidence or even the spare money to invest into some of these newer tactics out there that they're not familiar with. If you're selling empanadas, there probably used to be an interest target right on Facebook that said empanadas lovers or bought an empanada in the last 30 days, and it's like, well, obviously we're going to go after those guys. So you have to be a little bit more creative now, a little bit more tactical, but the humble brag that we use is, we've averaged a little bit over 6x returns for our clients since we launched the business. And I credit that to our ability to test a ton of different things because we have so many different types of clients.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is that it's because we can do it all day long, every day, and we don't have to, wash dishes or, deliver to our other wholesale partners around the city. Like, this is our full-time job. And so, when I was running the barbecue restaurant, I could run all of our digital ads and go work the cashier and go wash dishes. And like, they were simple enough then, and the targeting, like Austin was saying, was so good that you didn't have to be as involved with it or even have the best ad partner possible to help them actually get the return you needed. And I think that's been the biggest shift, is that you just have to be so in it all the time. Like, Facebook constantly is updating things. The tagging thing we were just talking about on the way up here is an example of like a new feature they've added that makes the ad experience worse for everybody, but they're trying to force it on everybody. And unless you have a trusted partner you can like piggyback on that with, you don't even know. You're just like, well, Facebook added in there, and their rep that calls me 40 times a day is being annoying, and I'm just going to do what they said. So I think who you have on your team has been a big reason we've seen people win with ads. And the people that don't are generally very frustrated with whoever they have, or themselves, honestly, doing it.
So, question on, ads in general. As a business owner, when we're thinking about return on investment, like, we're thinking about it in maybe two different scenarios. Like, our target audience we want to reach, so those are people that we just want to get impressions from, right? We want them to see our content, and then we have on the other end of the funnel, we want to make conversions and sales or get people to come out to the food truck, right? So where are you guys seeing the highest return on investment for those two separate things? Like, which platform is that? Is there, a specific strategy behind that you see is working really well for your current clients?
Yeah, I can start on that one. So I think there were several questions in there, but I'll start with kind of what platforms and where we're seeing the higher kind of ROIs. The biggest thing that you need to consider when you're starting to dabble, and I know a lot of y'all are already in the space, so if you are experiencing issues, what I would say is really consider the intent of people looking for your business. So, for example, if you are a landscaping business, people are probably going to search for you. They're going to be looking for your services when they need you. I had someone run over my mailbox the other day. So, like, I'm in the market for a new mailbox, and I've been searching for those businesses to find the right partner to come rebuild me a brick mailbox, which, by the way, is super expensive. But if any one of y'all masonries, come talk to me. But that's a very search-focused thing. Whereas maybe an empanada truck would be something that's more of you've got to see it to want it. And so think about that when you're kind of planning out your strategy. Are people actively looking for my service, or do I need to be in front of them for them to consider? And so what I would say there is, if you need to be in front of them, really focus in on the creative. The creative is critical. The targeting is still really important, but making sure that your product looks as good as it can, focus on the features, why people want to buy it, and really hit on that hard. On the other side, if you're more of a searchable business, you've got to be playing in the Googles, the Microsoft, the Amazon, because that's where people are going to find you, and that's where you're going to get the best ROI. Now, from a tactical perspective, we talk about Facebook a lot because that's typically where people start in the digital world. And when we talk about kind of the impression and reach side versus the conversion and bottom of the funnel side, what we tell people is, if you can afford to realistically, try to kind of play in both. And what I mean by that is, don't just try and go for impression volume. That's usually not the move. Probably not even clicks at that point. What we love to tell people is, if you're able to get really good video quality done, or even just a good video of you in front of the camera describing your product or service, you can run those as video-based ads where the strategy is literally just getting people to watch for a period of time. And then if you explore around the platform long enough, or if you work with a partner, you'll know that you can build audiences based off of people who watch a very specific video. So a great example is, I was working with a author that just published a new book this week. It just came out. And she was able to get on a fairly big radio talk show, and with a well-known person. And what we told him is, well, make sure we're running that video, but also make sure that you're getting pictures with you and him with the book afterwards, so that way you can run the video as just a video-based strategy, and then you can retarget the people who watch that specific video with the photo of the two of y'all with the picture. So try and think of it from a kind of a bigger perspective, where you're saying, how can I combine the two? But I know oftentimes it's difficult for especially small businesses to invest in the higher funnel when it's sort of just it can feel like a prayer or a Hail Mary a little bit. But if you've got the ability to be tactical and really specific in who you're talking to, that's our best strategy. And a lot of times that drives the best ROI when you're ready to start converting.
I just want to see a show of hands if you have ever wasted money on a marketing activity, advertising. You'd like to have the money back, Yeah. So that's what we see a lot of times. Just even going back a step further in the planning process, is that a lot of small business owners suffer from something we call random acts of marketing. And it's not your fault. It's like you're so busy doing the thing you're doing that some really good salesperson comes in and goes, listen, I have this really pretty digital billboard on the side of the road. You're going to get 50,000 eyeballs a day going to watch it. And they're all going to come in and they're going to eat your barbecue sandwich. And it's only going to cost you $2,500 a month. I was like, dumb me. I was like, yeah, deal. Like, sign me up. And I worked the register every single day for that ad. And that was the only ad we were running because it was the only $2,500 I had. And every person that came in, I was relentless about asking, oh, is this your first time in? And if they said yes, I'd always ask, how'd you hear about us, right? Because we want to know, where's it working? Where can we keep going? A whole month of running that billboard, 3 people said, oh, I saw the billboard on the side of the road and I came in. And like, the billboard was on the way to the restaurant. It's not like it was on the wrong side. Like, it was a accidentally well-placed billboard as far as billboard advertising goes. But the mistake I made was just letting somebody else market my business for me. And it was like, I was listening to a salesperson, not a marketing strategist, but I just didn't know what I didn't know. And so whatever advertising you're doing now, just like make sure you have a very clear plan and a very clear reason why you're doing what you're doing. And that's what Austin's talking about here, because it's like, if you have a lawn care company, yeah, high search volume, like, we're gonna look at Google first and test that. And testing, and maybe it'll work, maybe not. Like, let's work together to find out. Like, that's a big key to find out if the ads you're doing, like, or if you're working with somebody that's worth working with. Because, like, anybody that gets up here and says, I guarantee you I know this is gonna work, no doubt. Like, I would run as fast as possible away from that person, because it's just, there's just no way to know. There's just too many variables.
And going back to that, I know every business is going to be a little different, but are there certain ads that work better for brick and mortar versus e-commerce?
Yeah, I can speak to that one a little bit. So let me give you a very specific example. I would say, well, actually, let me ask, I'll pull the crowd here as well. How many of y'all have ran a carousel ad before? General consensus, thumbs up or thumbs down on those. Did it work for you? Seen a lot of thumbs down, maybe some sad faces.
He's on the fence. He'll try it again. I think.
Yeah. Well, here's the reason why I say that. Carousel ads work for very specific reasons. And by the way, this is today me talking. 3 years ago, me talking would say a totally different thing because it's all changed. The way that these algorithms change, and we rely on people like Ben because they'll give us a 60-page explanation of what changed. And Ben's the guy that likes to read all that, and he gives us the Spark Notes, which is critical. But the reason I say carousel specifically is because a lot of time you would think, I'm going to keep going back to empanadas because you're right in front of me, but you might show menu items, right? You think, oh, people are going to swipe through and they're going to see all this amazing food. Or for no baked, you might have all the different flavors right there. Well, for one reason or another, they have deprioritized carousel ads for conversion-focused businesses. They don't tell you that. Do you see a not good for conversion businesses right there when you choose carousel? Not at all. So a lot of time it's just dependent on what's been working in the industry at the time, right? So a lot of the time I tell people, if you don't really know and you're working on your own, stick with the basics. It's kind of the well, keep it simple, stupid kind of methodology. Get a square photo. Fun fact, square photos take up more real estate on phones and laptops than any other size, unless you're talking about a story, which I'm talking about, it's like in the feed. It takes up more. If you think about your phone, it takes up 2/3 of the screen. So use square ads. Keep it simple, static or video, squares. So when you have the option, they're gonna try and get you to click automatic placement. Don't do that either, it's bad. Read the individual options. A lot of time it'll tell you exactly where the ad's gonna run. It'll even show you a little picture. But they're gonna want you to click the automatic option, and that's because they have inventory to sell in all these different places. If you can't tell, I'm kind of a very technical minded person with these things, but my biggest thing is just keep it simple every time if you don't know what works for your business.
So this leads me into a question on content. Right now, what is performing the best across platforms? So, I see a lot of stuff on user-generated content, organic content, and then stuff that's professionally taken in a studio. There's all these different types of content, video format, all of this. What is performing the best? What is being promoted the best with ads as well?
Content it's an interesting thing. It's really complicated, right? Because we'll see some people with the TikTok that gets 1 million views, and then you ask them, how did that do for business for you? And they're like, I don't know, I got $2,000 in sales. And you're like, when you look at the track or the attention to the actual conversion, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But it still worked, right? Because they got brand awareness out of that video. And so all marketing works, right? Buying billboards, buying radio ads, buying that old school stuff still works if you have a massive, massive budget like Coca-Cola. And so what I would recommend doing if I was to come in and I had to take over somebody's business here and that's all I had. If I had no money, then I would focus all in on organic content. And right now it is vertical videos, short form videos on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. And the good thing is that all these platforms aren't original and they want to just copy each other's features except for LinkedIn because that's a whole nother monster. And unless you're B2B sales, don't even worry about it. You focus in on short form video where you're really trying to tell the best story possible. And people make story really complicated, but it just needs a beginning, middle, and end. Try to make the beginning as interesting as possible. Because then there's the only metric I would look at for content from a video standpoint is retention rate. What's the percentage of the video that's being viewed by the audience? Because if you can get that up over 50%, you will see your organic reach numbers start to go way, way up. We don't make organic content at HighBeam. We really start to work with people that are ready to promote their content and really use these platforms to drive sales, because there's a whole nother conversation to have about they don't like when you send people off the platform. That's why anytime you try to sell something in your content, they just shut it down organically. But if you go, I would do a lot of case studies within your niche or within adjacent niches of what you're doing. Like what kind of content are other people making, and like how can you make your own unique version of that? A lot of companies right now, especially small businesses like all of ours, are the founder-led stories of like, hey, here's a day in the life, here's what I've got going on. I've watched hundreds of videos of people either, power washing sidewalks, and I was like, if I lived next to that guy, I would definitely hire him to do that. Or like freeze-dried nerds, I bought those. They looked cool, and I bought them. They were great. So, if I didn't have a lot of money to spend on ads and all I had was time, because as entrepreneurs, we either have one of those two things. We either have a lot of time or we have a lot of money. And when we have a lot of money, if we're smart, we start delegating different tasks out to people and using things more efficiently. But in the beginning, we have a lot of time, and so we have to do it all, right? And you have to become your own sort of media company for your business. And so look around and go, hey, here's how we make empanadas. Here's how we make cookie dough. Here, I'm trying, like a fun video for you would be, will it cookie dough? I don't know. Will an empanada cookie dough? Probably not, but it'd be a fun video to watch. And, after a certain amount of time, you'll start to get those, they're not great sales numbers, but you will get enough sales, which then creates cash, which then allows you to be able to go run ads on those platforms. A great example is that we have a client that builds barn-dominiums. They're like big, huge, farmhouse looking things. They don't actually build them, they just ship you kits. They make, if I showed you from a quality standpoint what this looked like, it's like shot on iPhones that are 5 or 6 years old. And the guy has 100,000 YouTube subscribers. And he's got almost 100,000 people on TikTok now following him. And I get so mad at him when because we're friends now, but it's 6 months ago, I was like, man, that's really impressive. But now I'm giving him a hard time. I'm like, all right, it's been 6 months. Let's improve imagine if you start doing this the way they want you to do it, how much better it's going to go. But they crushed organically, and now we're starting to run ads for them, and it's going really, really well. But they started out with a lot of time. They just needed to promote their business the best way they can organically. And those platforms want you to win at the end of the day, because you're keeping people on their platform longer. And so if I would combine two things, it would be retention rate and how long do I actually keep people on the platform.
Yeah, I can chime in a little bit too from just sort of what works well on the advertising side. And again, I would say a lot of it can depend on the platform and also the business. So there's a great example that we did probably about a year ago now. And there was a fairly large company that had licensed Crocs. So they were selling their own Crocs, right? And they had two different videos. So they had created this really nice, super highly produced video. They got someone from a Netflix show that was a big star in the industry to do this whole shoot. It looked incredible. It looked like something you would see in a movie theater. And, of course, we're all excited, right? We get that kind of asset in our hands. It feels like gold. And we're thinking, all right, this is going to be a huge test on TikTok. We're going to sell all the Crocs in the world. Turns out we ran this ad and it flopped. And we're talking about real money that went into this. We had to get licensing to use this person's image. We had to, shoot the video and get the space to shoot the video and the equipment and everything. Well, it turns out video of a kind of no-name person in the industry holding up the Crocs and doing a little dance in her bathroom killed it, right? Got a 4x return on the dollar. And we're like, okay, well, that's great. But now what do we do with this probably, $30,000 set of videos that we have? Well, so we could use those on Facebook and Instagram. We thought, well, we might as well try them, right? It's real size, the right length, run it there. Let's see what happens. And 5X is there, where it was literally below a 1 on TikTok. So the message there is, obviously we know kind of what type of content is typically on these platforms. So lean into that first, but if it doesn't go the way you expect, that doesn't mean you need to throw the asset in the trash. I know we're probably not all shooting $30,000 videos in here, but you've got a beautiful set back here where you can take product shots. If it doesn't work on the first platform, do not throw it away, please. Try it on another platform. If it doesn't work there, just keep trying. And and if it doesn't work then, just maybe iterate on it, because you, the business owner, know what your customers love. And so if you can take that and get it into the asset, it'll work somewhere. I can almost guarantee it.
Awesome. That gives me hope for some of my content that's flopped before, so.
I will say this too about content. We're seeing a real thing with organic videos that do really well in the feed. That means, let's call it TikTok is promoting it organically for you for free, right? If you then take that video and you sort of chop the back end off of it and add like a really nice call to action for your business, and then you run that as an ad, those are doing really, really well. And so that's a way you could start to not feel like you're just wasting time, like, oh, like impressions are great and I'm glad this video got 10,000 views, but I can't buy more product with 10,000 views. But there's a way to actually do that where you're going, okay, the content worked, I got to test it for free, repurpose it, turn it into an ad.
Awesome, that's a good method too, like knowing that it works organically, it's probably going to do well as an ad, is that fair to say?
It'll do really well as an ad, and what ends up happening, your CPMs will come way, way down because those platforms, again, they have to make a trade-off when they show ads to their users. They're basically saying, I'm willing to risk that you're going to leave my platform because this company paid us money, so I'm okay with you leaving the platform. That's the exchange they're making. That's a monetary value for them, no big deal. If you give them an ad that's great organically and gets a lot of engagement, it keeps people on the platform for longer, staying involved with that ad, they're gonna happily start to show that to more and more people.
The one thing I would add too, just because we talked about it earlier, and I want to make sure that no one gets scared off on this idea, we were talking about different portions of the funnel and where advertising can play into it, right? Well, he was talking earlier about what happens when you get that 10 million views, but you get 2 sales. The cool thing about most of these platforms is, and I kind of referred to it earlier, but those organic views are also capturable in retargetable audiences. So if you've got a video that you ran 6 months ago organically that just popped off for one reason or another, you can still today build an audience and retarget those people. 6 months down the road, they might or might not remember the content, but the point is, if you see something going really, really well today, it could be a great opportunity for you to capitalize on tomorrow. So be looking for those things, organic winners, because again, you could show them the ad again with the CTA at the end, or the video again with the CTA at the end, or you could show them a static that kind of calls back to it.
You guys think, I'm not sure the term, but whatever's changing with Gmail or the email side, is that going to be net positive for the merchants or more for the customers, or how do y'all kind of view?
What's the change specifically to you?
Yeah. You have to re-register all your domain stuff because the 3% of spam is flagging everything.
Do you mean it like you have an email, you're sending emails out and you've been flagged as like spam now and you got to start all over?
Has either already changed just in the last few weeks or going to in upcoming? I don't know. Okay, yeah. So I think if like 3% of the recipients market as spam, you're in some kind of bucket on not good in the Gmail eyes.
And Yahoo.
Before that, it wasn't nearly as stringent.
You've always had a email sender health score. That doesn't sound super new. I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about exactly. Do you have something you want to throw in? See, you're getting to talk to Ben now. You have to sign up. Wow,
That's a very technical question. You've always had a sender reputation.
Sure.
It hasn't been as high as 3%. That's very new. But the thing is like, if you're sending quality emails, that generally isn't a problem. Most people, especially if you're providing, it depends on what kind of service you're doing, but if you're trying to sell directly in your email with every single email, you're eventually going to get marked as spam. If you are providing helpful content alongside your products or just customer stories and things like that, that's a way to do it. So I'll give you an example. We are marketing a cocktail festival in Memphis right now. We do not sell tickets in every single email. The CTA is there, but it is not always the primary focus. In certain periods of time, each week, we're sending an email that is just telling them about one of the vendors who will be present. Hey, this is Maker's Mark. Here's some background about them, what their history is like, and teaching them about the distillers that are going to be present. And so it's educational content that also just builds once a week, they're seeing us in the inbox, they're getting familiar. Because most people don't buy tickets for that event until the last 4 days. So we do 3 months of marketing to lead into 4 days of ticket sales. 90% of the sales come in 4 days. So when we're managing expectations with a business owner, it's the same thing. It's like, hey, I know these emails feel like they're not worth it. But when we get to the final 4 days of sales, we've marketed 2 other events for this guy and he's seen the results. It's like consistent messaging over time, teach them something, tell them a story, bring them emotionally with email into your brand rather than just using it as a pure sales tool. Pure sales is okay, but don't do it every single email. If that makes sense. And then if you do that, you don't even have to worry about sender reputation. So keep an eye on your email metrics. If after you send an email, wait about a week for all the opens to kind of happen and trickle in. Look at the metrics, see how many unsubscribes you have, how many reports of abuse you have. If you use MailChimp, it's super easy to pay attention to those metrics. Keep an eye on that. If you have a large spike in unsubscribes or metrics, take a look at that email. Start to compare it to your other emails that didn't have rates that high and start to figure out what maybe changed in that one that could have contributed to that. As long as you're paying attention to those things, you shouldn't have too much to worry about.
In general, when we look at email marketing at HighBeam, we treat it like another social media feed organically because you're going to show up in somebody's inbox organically. And if if somebody posts something on Facebook 10 times in one day and you see that 10 times, like you're going to get fatigued from that really quick and you'll probably unfollow that page. It's the same thing for email, except, if you email people every single day and you're not in the middle of like a really specifically planned out sales campaign, right now we're selling, it's time to go. In those moments, it's fine to email daily. I mean, for the festival he mentioned, on the last day, we send out 6, 7, 8 emails depending on how it's going. So just treat it like another social media feed. Like it's content driven first, and as long as you sort of follow those rules, like Gmail's, Google, they're always going to try to protect their users. That's going to keep happening no matter what. Us as the vendors have to stay frustratingly disciplined in the I'm going to keep providing value and doing content, but I really need sales today. You just got to kind of keep playing that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said something before about if you're doing organic content and then you try and sell a product, the algorithm will kill the reach organically. And I just want to make sure I understand.
Yes, so if, let's use the empanada example here because, that's my background and, we've already done it 100 times. Or what's your business? Let's do that. It's more specific.
Well, so for instance, I made a video for International Women's Day, right, the other day, and the whole video was about how single U.S. women are buying more homes than single U.S. men.
Mm-hmm.
I sell a product called the Housewarming Box.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end, it's and if you missed celebrating her, get a housewarming box. I feel like I shouldn't have done that because I could have just been making an International Women's Day video,
Mm-hmm.
right? And is that what you're talking about? The moment I mention the product, the algorithm's going to kill it.
The moment the algorithm identifies that piece of content as the reason people are leaving the platform, then it's going to kill it. That's what we've seen. Unless it's a crazy engaging piece of content, and let's say that video was a minute long, and they see that viewers of the video watched 50 seconds of it, and 10% of the traffic went to the next video, and 10% of the traffic clicked off that video to off the app, and maybe they went to your site, maybe they went somewhere else. They're not going to be able to track that most of the time unless they go through your profile. And the other 90% just scrolled right on through. You'll probably not get penalized at that moment just because they're going to look at it and go oh, well, this video is getting a 90% retention rate for the whole thing. And so you could be okay. I would want to look at that video and see what the retention graph on it looked like. And the next time you have something like that come up, what you could do is test it. And you could post one video with the CTA at the end, and then a couple hours later post it without the CTA, or flip that around and just see what ends up happening with that piece of content. It's more of an apples to apples thing. Each piece of content today on social media lives on its own. The amount of subscribers you have, the amount of followers you have, they just really don't matter anymore. We've shifted completely away from a follower-based algorithm, which was I followed the empanada and I wanted to see empanadas and that's it. But now they are wholly on interest-based content, which means unless I'm liking a bunch of content about empanadas, I'm not going to see his empanada content. Or unless I'm liking about a bunch of stuff about International Women's Day or buying a home or something like that. We did just buy a home, so I probably could have been in the market to see that, or my wife would have been. It's a long, convoluted answer to say it depends, and just keep testing and trying. Like the next video, try without it, try with it, and just keep trying. But as a general rule of thumb, when it comes to content marketing, if you send people off the platform, it's a higher chance that they're gonna kill the chances that video gets organic reach.
This was on Instagram,
Mhm.
and I intentionally didn't tag the product so that it's like link in bio, so the video would take you back to the profile. I'm not sure if that helps because I'm keeping them.
Yep, good, it's great,
Okay.
yep.
One of the rules of thumbs I'll add to is a lot of time we tell people to follow what we have kind of deemed the 80-20 rule, which means try to keep the content that you're sharing on these platforms 80% what we would say a give and 20% a take. So if you're dropping a link, or if you're telling someone, buy today or get it now for 40% off, or whatever that looks like, that's going to be what we would consider to be a take. But saying, here's 10 great things that you could provide to a new homeowner when they move into a new house, and there's the list, and that's it. Maybe a couple hashtags. That would be considered a give. And so what we try to tell people is, load up with 80% of the gives, and then make that 120% really, really worth it. So, when it comes time to ask big, and make sure that you're being cognizant of what's worked in the past, of course, because, that means that it's 4-to-1, right? And so you have to make sure that it's super, super impactful, and that the giving that you're doing is truly giving, and it truly is valuable. A video of someone opening a box, for example, that could be a give. But the moment you say, you can get it for your friends today for $10 off, use this code, they're going to start to read that as a take. So that's sort of the rule of thumb we say.
So you could be confident about your product. You're just not asking for a buy.
Yeah, you could be like, come with me while I assemble this home buyer's box. And the story of that video is you assembling the box. And you've gotten around the sort of CTA. It is a CTA for the box, but it's the video is about the story of you assembling that product, right? And
You could even talk about where the products came from, and you could kind of almost, at that point, you're sort of, you're giving the content to the user, but you're also sort of, if you're shopping from other local
Right.
businesses, it helps them out too, right?
And it's important to note that, like, as consumers, we're really good at ignoring ads. And the minute we know something is an ad, is the minute we try to fast forward through the thing, right? Like Netflix got really popular because we didn't have to watch ads, and that was worth $20 a month or $10 a month or free if we steal people's login. So, which we don't get to do anymore. But, it's like, we like to watch infomercials sometimes late at night because they're kind of funny and entertaining, and it just sort of fits that time frame. So, again, a lot of this stuff just depends on how you're doing it and where you're doing it. But the minute you try to sell to somebody before they're ready, that's sales, that's not marketing, and those platforms are meant for marketing. And marketing is all about building relationships from a one-to-many standpoint. Sales is one-to-one, and it's like, it's much different if this is marketing for us at IB. This is B2B marketing, right? It's 1 to 20 or so. If you and I had a conversation over here one-on-one, and I start going like, well, tell me about your e-com strategy, and what are you spending? Like, that's more sales-based, right? So I think you're on the right track. I think that's a really good question. Just keep on going that way. Did you?
Yeah. Do you have which platform do you think is better for marketing to women versus men, vice versa, or specifically, I guess, food products versus non-food products in that case?
That's a great question. From a running an ad standpoint, the targeting, we can still do it that way, right? And so it doesn't matter from when we're running ads. Specifically, from an organic content standpoint, the last data that I looked at, Twitter, or X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, is the only one that's more really significantly heavily male dominated. Most of the data shows that every other platform is skewed slightly more feminine than male.
And what I would add to that is, a lot of the time, if you don't know how to find this, like, go on YouTube. There's tutorials for everything now, and if there's not, let us know. We'll make one. But there are usually Typically, there is a place where you can see your breakdown of engagement by demographic. For us at High Beam, specifically me, because I do a lot of our digital advertising, that's something we look at. So we'll look at, like just today, I was looking at a company's headlines on their ads. And I was saying, okay, well, is it resonating with people under 25? Okay, it's not. Okay, so maybe we'll start at 26 and up. Well, okay, well, actually, 25 and down is working for men, but not women. So maybe we tailor it to just this group. So I guess I say that to say it can really depend on your business. I think you're going to hear that a lot, but it's important to just listen to the numbers and try to seek those out. And again, I know like you've got 10,000 jobs because you're running the shop yourself. But if you've got time, if you set aside 30 minutes, like this is my content time, it is absolutely worth it to just dabble in those dashboard reports, look and see a couple of things. Also, this is probably a very tactical again, but pay attention to the date range that you're using, because for the International Women's example, you're probably going to notice that a lot more people who are women finish the video, right? So in your example, I would probably not do like a 7-day look back window. I would do maybe a 6-month or a 12-month look back to say, over the last year, who's engaging with my content on this platform, and then start to optimize your content specific to that audience.
And again, back to what we said, these algorithms are interest-based now. And so if Instagram, for instance, identifies your page as creating content that women within a certain age range that like a certain thing like, they're going to keep showing that content to people, and you'll probably see something between 20 and 100 views on your worst videos. And that's Instagram really testing, that piece of content with that demographic of people. And even that is split generally like 50-50 between who follows you and who doesn't. Instagram is still a little bit on the follower side of the sliding scale of interest to follower base. But in general, just make the best piece of content you can that's most engaging for the people you are trying to reach, and that gives you the best shot to reach them from an organic standpoint. The only way you can really guarantee to reach those people, and guarantee is probably slightly too strong of a word and I'll get yelled at for it later, is by running ads. And so that's the trade-off between I've got money to run so I can shortcut the process a little bit.
I was going to ask about commercials. How do y'all feel about commercials? I know typically all videos are kind of like mini commercials.
Like TV commercials?
Yeah, so how do you feel about running commercials as ads, I guess?
What's your business?
I have a road license business.
Okay. So does it have a brick and mortar location or is it, okay. What, do you have a massive advertising? I'm trying not to ask too personal questions. Is it a massive advertising budget, like you're on the way to being Coca-Cola, or is it like I'm rich on time? Okay.
One day though, right?
In general, TV ads could be a good play for an awareness thing. It's about getting your brand out there. It's about getting well
Wait, let
known.
me rephrase my question. So
Yeah.
I'm saying doing like a commercial that you would see on TV, but running that via Instagram, Facebook.
As content or as an ad?
And say it one more time.
As content, so organically, or would you be putting money behind it? So the good thing about running the ad and putting money behind it is that you can be extremely specific about who you're targeting and where. So if you are located here in Germantown and you know that you typically are getting walkable traffic or people that just want to come over for a treat from work, you can target people down to a very tiny radius, a very specific place. In that instance, it could make sense. Your opening hook could be, people of Germantown, and it's very specific, and they know pretty much right away that you're talking to them. But that's a good hook to bring them in too, right? So I think it's hard to know exactly the right way to put your content together before you test it. But I would say absolutely try it out. If you're going to be making video and you're going to be making video that's not like the $30,000 crazy example I mentioned earlier, make 3 or 4 versions that feel a little bit different to you and then try them all. Because the cool thing is 2 things will happen. One, these platforms, let's say you're running it yourself, the platform to an extent will start to move away from the options that are not working. So 90% of the time, if there's a video that's just going to bomb, they will not continue to run it unless for some reason it's just hyper engaging. But usually they move away. And if you're in that 5% where, okay, the bomb video is still getting ran, it's still getting money put behind it, you can just pause it. And so I always tell people, if you don't know what works well for the business today, try to make several options. Make 3, 4, 5 options. Don't limit yourself just to video. Try some statics out. Try different kinds of statics. Make sure you're filming vertical and horizontal and in square. Try all these different things, because truthfully, different niches and different industries can vary greatly on what works best. So all that to say, don't write off the idea of a commercial style video. But I definitely am glad, that you said that your idea would be to run that as paid traffic, because to our point earlier, I think if you're too heavy salesy on the hook, you'll find that video won't get a ton of reach.
I find that content that feels like it belongs on the platform tends to do really, really well, or it has a better chance to do well. And a really highly produced, well thought out, scripted, $40,000 TV commercial type ad, the risk you have there, unless it's a highly engaging first 5 seconds, like that hook is so good it brings people in, is that people, their minds have already conditioned themselves. When I see this happens, which means when I see content that looks like this, it's going to be an ad, which means I should just go ahead and skip it or scroll or move on. And so if you can find a way to shoot any content, no matter what it is, even if it's a good TV commercial, because not so much recently, but we used to love Super Bowl commercials because they stopped treating them like terrible, just branding things, and they actually became stories, and we were all like, yeah, when's the Clydesdale show up? That's gonna be great. So if anything you could do to try to tell a little story, mini story, something like that, even if it's hey, I'm in my shop today, I think scooped ice cream's the devil, and here's 5 reasons why rolled ice cream's better, right? I don't know, that kind of stuff does really well. The frustrating answer we're going to keep giving everybody is you got to get your hands dirty and test it and try it. But I'm really empathetic to the small business struggle for cash flow. And so I try to find the cheapest way possible to test it, if that makes sense. I hope that answered the question.
Great, here.
Go ahead.
So you talked about, platforms want retention, they want to keep people on platform, right? So I've thought a lot about with the advent of TikTok Shop, right? Also Instagram Shop.
Yep.
Should we as product businesses be trying to push people to shops on platform versus trying to take them off platform?
Yeah, I can answer that one. There's a lot of added logistics, and if you're in a place where you can hurdle those logistics pretty easily, try it. The cool thing is you will likely see, there's 2 things I'll say. One is, like you mentioned, keeping people on platform is everything to Zuckerberg and all these people, right? So yeah, you'll see a lot of times that your CPMs, which is your cost per 1,000 impressions, will be lower. Your cost per click might be lower, probably as a result of that. So you might actually see better results. Now, I will say, I think the TikTok shop is being adopted a lot faster for one reason or another than the Instagram and Facebook shops. So, just from what I've seen recently, I would probably say if you're gonna pick one to start, maybe start there. But be aware of all the numbers. I'm gonna keep hammering on that. I'm a big numbers guy, but that's how you win at marketing. So be aware of, okay, if you're testing both, if you're sending someone to an e-commerce store on your website and you're sending someone to Facebook, keep an eye on CPMs. Is what I'm saying actually true in your case? Are you getting it cheaper? Are your cost per click cheaper? Is your conversion rate better or worse? And at the end of the day, what does it cost you to acquire a customer on both? And then lean in. If it's working on TikTok, probably then, that's a good reason to start testing on Facebook and Instagram as well. The other thing I'll say as the second piece is, I know that TikTok is developing this too, but in Facebook and Instagram, there are really, really cool targeting tools specific to selling product in your social media store. So obviously, because it's in platform, they have incredible data about when someone watched a video that's in your store, looked at a product or added a product to the cart and didn't complete. There are all these cool things that you can start to do and retarget off of. Whereas, on your personal website, it might be, you can target people who added something to the cart based on the URL if you're tactical enough to build an audience that way. But even then you have to worry about, okay, well, what kind of privacy settings do these people have on their phones? You might be actually getting to target 60% of them. So the cool thing about the store is you're gonna be able to target 100% of them because it's all native. All the data is right there in the platform. But again, older people, shocker, are a little bit more resistant to buying. That said, your customer base is gonna come from younger people 10 years from now, and so be aware of that. Again, test.
Our shop gives us the contact data for who purchases. I should know that. but
Yeah.
It
Yes,
does.
you should get that from that, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it depends. I mean, it's a good question. I love to own as much as I can. And so if I can own the audience on my own e-com platform, that's great. Amazon is a super established player. And so I would ask you, like, are we already on Amazon doing things there as well as we can? Do we already have our own e-com strategy built out? Because it's worth siphoning off a little bit of the margin to Amazon just because we are all so used to buying things on Amazon and that ecosystem. TikTok is still really new, and TikTok Shop is even newer, and they are trying really hard to figure it out, and they're heavily discounting products. And as a marketing strategist person, I hate discounts because the minute you do that, you anchor that product as you got $50 empanadas, I got them for $25, and those are now $25 empanadas. Buyer beware, test at your own peril. My general rule of thumb is, I try to do 90% of what works right now. And I try to be disciplined enough to know 10% of my time or money or effort is going to go to testing the new things and all the things. I will say, if you're worried about TikTok Shop and you don't have a well-rounded email strategy yet, that's dangerous. So, but that's a lot of the people that we end up meeting with. It's oh, let's talk about TikTok this or another. And I'm we don't even have a way to collect emails yet on your website. Can we? Yeah, that's right, exactly. But 5 years from now, we could be up here again being you're not on TikTok Shop yet? Didn't you know? So.
You just mentioned Amazon, having a well-established Amazon storefront. What about those of us who are on social media, working on there, but we're thinking about getting on Amazon? I don't know a thing about putting a product on Amazon just yet. How would you say, if you're brand new to Amazon, you have a brand new storefront, how could you push a product on Amazon?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that, and I will expose us in one way, and that's that we are not experts on getting your products organically listed there or getting your shops optimized there. What we are experts in are running the ads for your products digitally on Amazon. So the problem with that answer is that one of the biggest issues we see with new businesses on Amazon when we try to run ads is that they don't have enough reviews. That's probably, it's 90% of the problem for these big, for these players that are there now. We have a business that we're working with that is well north of $100 million in revenue annually, and they are struggling to sell product on Amazon because they're so new and they don't have reviews. Now, if you go on Google, infinite reviews, right? If you go on Facebook, infinite reviews. Their Shopify reviews are, incredible, but there is just none in Amazon. So what I know that they're doing is once they make sales, they are including things in the packaging that says, please go leave a review on Amazon. If you had a bad experience, please come to me first. Those kind of things, it goes a really, really long way. That said, once you've got, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus reviews, then it's time to start considering the advertising side of things. I don't have to tell you guys that margin on Amazon sucks compared to running on your own website. So that's the big thing to be aware of. Just make sure you've got your numbers down of this is how much money I can realistically spend to acquire a customer, because that'll keep you in bounds, right? It'll keep you from going too heavy in before you're ready. But if you can spare the extra money to include a note card in that package that says, please go, review it on Amazon, or even, I don't remember the exact rules, but if you can even get other customers who are buying to review there as a verified customer, those things are worth their weight in gold. So, and we do, I mean, we have, if you need a contact, like we have partners that we work with personally on the organic side of Amazon because we're not experts in that. So I'm happy to like send you their email or anything like that too.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're okay.
We're running up on time, so we have time for one more question.
I recently just started running paid ads, and it's taking so long to make that creative. I haven't been making organic content. And I just wanted to see, have you seen a relationship between CPMs and organic content? If I'm doing organic content, does it make it easier for Meta to go target my ads? Is there a relationship?
A couple of things I'll mention. So I know you mentioned the time spent creating the content. There's really two thoughts that I have there. One is you have the freedom to use that organic content as advertising. In that instance, lean heavily on your headlines, your body copy, the description. I'm being very tactical because I know you're in the platform. The descriptions don't matter a ton, just a tiny little additive maybe, but feel free to test that content. Now, don't click the blue boost button. We don't count that as paid advertising. That's random acts of marketing put on by Zuck himself. We don't like that. What we do like is, you can use the content, or when you're making it, trying to have a strategy where, okay, I'm gonna make these 3 types of content, and now maybe, like he was saying, slice off 10% of that time and say, how can I also repurpose this into an ad? So if there's a video, shoot a little 5-second CTA at the end, clip it to the end of these videos, try that out. Add overlays on images that have more hard and fast CTAs. By the way, there used to be a rule, if any of y'all are old players in the game, where they used to not let you run ads that had more than 20% of text. That rule is dead now. Cue the applause. So don't feel scared about putting a big message out if you've got something like that to say. The other thing is be aware of the options available to you in the audience manager section of Meta, because that's where you can build engagement-focused audiences off of that organic content that you're spending a ton of time on. You can say, this person has to have engaged with my Instagram account in the last 15 days, or Facebook account. Or you could say they watched a specific video for this specific amount of time. There's a lot of really specific choices that you can make. And if we talked about virality earlier, if you have a video that 10x what you normally get, make an audience out of just that video, and your creative can speak to that specific audience. Because I promise you, if you got 10,000 viewers, it'll be worth it to talk to that specific crowd. And I do know that it takes a lot of time. So if you don't have the ability to make the new asset, use the organic asset and let the copy do the heavy lifting.
And I just want to say, in 2024, and probably 25 too, unless they change the way they do organic content on these platforms, like Facebook 2014 is not coming back, even TikTok 2020 is not coming back, which means that it is worth it for your business for you to figure out how to make those ads convert to sales today. That still exists. Like, people like to get up here, or not get up here, but like they like to say like, oh, Facebook ads don't work anymore, Google ads don't work anymore, but they do. And if you can figure that out, then it becomes hey, I gave the platform $1, I got 4 back, and now I can start to create momentum. In today's world, if you've got the money to run the ads and really got the discipline to take the time to figure it out to actually how it's going to work for your business, it always works out better from a cash flow standpoint 12, 18 months from now. But if you start making organic social media content today, 18 months from now, it'll be like, yeah, we get a little bit of revenue from social media, but I'm really doing these other things that are driving revenue for my company. But we live in a world where like every year e-com revenue is going up and up and up and up, and it's not slowing down anytime soon that we've seen. Now, it's not killing brick and mortar stores, unless God forbid we have another terrible global health situation, but like e-com is still going to be huge. And so figuring out how to run these ads and actually get that money back for your business is going to be the single thing that will change everything for you. It'll like stop being so frustrating. Like, last story I'll tell is like my dad, a very old school guy, Air Force recruiter, 30 years, whole thing. When we first started the barbecue restaurant, he was a partner, he was like, you want to spend how much money on digital ads? And like, you need to just go door to door in this neighborhood and tell everybody we're open. You know, I mean, that was like, I grew up licking envelopes for recruiters, right? So I was like, no, I think it's going to work, man. Just trust me, it's going to work. And like, we figured it out, and it completely changed our business because he finally saw at the register every day, people would come in and they'd go, how'd you hear about us? Number one was word of mouth. Word of mouth and referrals will always be number one for your business because we're still humans. We're still, we trust each other, the whole thing. So if you have a bad product or service, people will tell everybody about it. If you have a good product or service, they'll tell people about it. But having Facebook or any kind of digital ad to get people to come in and try your stuff for the first time, all of a sudden that amplifies that word of mouth. And he started to see people come up to the register and go, oh, I saw it on Facebook or I saw it on Instagram. This was 2016, 2017. But as soon as he saw that, he was like, yeah, whatever we got to do to keep figuring this out. He borderline took it as his idea, but it's fine.
Those tech billionaires, they're trying to get you to strap computers to your face. So, to his point earlier, the e-commerce and the digital side is not going anywhere. If anything, it's going to be more and more prominent. So, yeah, I love what he said about just leaning in now before it's, 18 months down the road and we haven't figured it out yet.
Just so you guys know, at Highbeam, we do have a free digital audit for you guys if you're running paid ads. So even if you're doing them yourself, or if you have an agency running them, you want to have a second set of eyes look at it. We do that for free, and it's a, it's a lead magnet for us. It tends to work out because you get a big list of like, hey, here's all the things you could improve. But if you're interested in that, you have our information on the card there. We'd be happy to help you guys. Thank you.